다들이 아주 그 주저기 저지 돈에 남발리게서 제약이 고급 중들이야. 안에 가보시라서 쉬하다 그냥 참대 배우들이야. 예, 그것이 중요해.
I'm very happy to be together with you at this gathering that was organized by Kamadrodin Kunkabling and Kagut Drodin Kunkabling, and very happy to see you all. Welcome.
예동 예로리아 아주 최저리아 아주 그 로동국이 최저리아 저 걸으제 뒤에 최저의 추주십시오 최저 멤버들도 디나 중국민도 자자
Lasso?
제자다 라마 뒤뒤산 냠뇽 사제 안들인데 깜바처분들이 레지
Lasso?
다들 계시셔야 이제 중요한 거다
Lasso?
안 간다야 다른 미세 talk 지어스 예 거선 다이미는 talk the topic 디가레슨 topic 미세 개민도 안데 라메다 교랑 가르시에나 드그레스 드레송도 다 가르시에나 드그레스도 양디디즈 지신디신데 매버지
Lasso?
제가 다디 it's kind of tricky. Today in Justane. Okay.
In 2008, I had the opportunity to visit the actual Dharma center of Kagyudrodin Gunkyab, and it was very crowded because I heard that not even all of the members can fit inside the Dharma center. There are so many members. And so I think Lamala gained some experience from that occasion, and this time he decided to rent a hall for the talk. And I heard that there was a talk today, but I didn't hear what the topic was. And Lamala told me there's no special topic. I could teach about whatever I wanted. I could talk about whatever I wanted. So since there's no special topic, then it becomes kind of tricky. I don't quite know what to say. I think I, the translator, don't know what to say. I might have misphrased that a little bit, but.
다디 지단도 가수래. 아니 답변을 좀 formal 가수래다지 로마 지 가수래 난취 로정 셴네 다지 챙게 망부시다에 잡지 배우대 제가 지디 formal 지 셴나 삼버 지 챙도
Lasso?
이내 나라시다 the person koran formal shira means and formal shell the color of stoa
Lasso?
and drain you stand 지단기 안에 가르 양왕감 그리 주루바 아니 디 엔다간다 차미르가 미세 잡아야 되비스 차리아래 다나신 공 미스 지체나 안 노쇼리아 표가 나무 상계비 다 지당 상계기 때문에 안디 나는 표 나무 상계비 때문에 뱅게 아쉬워 되는 차리아래 안디 인두산에 갸스 나로네 가시엘이야 된데 콘다단 제바예바 서머베 다 두스 차리아래 섬 두스 챙도 안디 인두산 디 유젤 데네 아니 나라이네야 따다버도 지 계급이야 계급 니즈리야 아도 로투요 말에 다 디나네 아메리카리아 따팅 다리디 숨버레 제자 미세기 가주에 녜게 3년 나로리아 영화 주주벌 다 안지 아메리카기 Devati Samarvadaji, Lemung Devati Sabuya Winzang. The Jagi Junzen Dene, Araina Yana Andu de Yon to Beruchik, the Chi Chonga Chiliang, Zidu Shuye Shuai.
Lasso? I think most of the attendees of today's talk are students of Buddhism, and therefore I thought it would be suitable to teach on some kind of formal topic. But the challenge is that I myself am not a very formal person. So we'll see what happens with regard to that. But in general, it is wonderful to be here in the United States of America because, as you know, His Holiness the 16th Gelung Karmapa had a very strong connection with the United States of America, and I think that he was one of the earliest masters to strongly propagate the teachings of Buddha Dharma in the West. And so, furthermore, I think that there are many of the students gathered here who had a very strong connection with His Holiness the 16th Gelung Karmapa. In terms of my own travels, I've only been able to visit 2 foreign countries so far in my life, the United States, of course, being one of them. And since the United States had such a profound connection with His Holiness the 16th Gelung Karmapa, I personally regard the U.S. as a place that would be very beneficial for me to return to again and again. Sumba, right, yeah. Right, and so this, of course, being my 3rd trip to the United States.
And Pelia that the Jeda Kajue Per Kajijonia Daganda Ji the Long the Dongcha Ringly Summerbe the Dongcha Ringlia and Ji Che Namlencha, some of that Ji Cheshogi Ji Kashre Lobjoncha, some of the Masebe Yandi Susu Gule Jarche, Susu Niji Tsoda Jar, and Susu Gule Jarche. The Jig Yamlencha said that the Jubango should dance. And the Jig Dakandar has a long don't charge in the others, never. And the Indusane and then Tade to Julia and that long don't charm on Buzilia, the Jig Kashre Pumizegi Yamlen Chavatan, Dana Singi. Experience somewhere that Cheshavek and the Chedi and the Jinzabulim Samaraya to share chair and the Guashikar, which is the launch air that is to Juchilia to do or something do.
In the snowy land of Tibet, the Buddha Dharma has remained for over 1,000 years. And so during the millennium and then some that the Dharma has remained in Tibet, the Dharma has been practiced in a pure and authentic way, in a way in which it wasn't just an object of study or intellectual endeavor, but in a way in which it was really applied to the hearts and minds of the people who practiced it. Many individuals practiced the Buddha Dharma with great authenticity and sincerity, fully embraced by the experience of compassion. And it was this way for over 1,000 years. And the era at which we've arrived now is one in which this tradition of Buddha Dharma, this experience of Buddha Dharma that was practiced by Tibetan people for over 1,000 years is now being shared widely throughout the world for everyone to enjoy. This is the point in time at which we have arrived now.
아저 잠니지 거를 시엔 주면로
라삼.
잠니지 거 다마시디 가르시에는 드그레스데 안데 지신 디지면게는 지도와 아디 괜찮았어 안다 드린도 잠니지 거를 지시에비나 주면로 삼정도스
라삼.
다마시 뒤주 가서래 다들 지원면도 다 간다 드린 아주 간지제래샤
So since I've been given free rein to choose any topic, I think that it would be good for us to discuss loving kindness and compassion.
No topic, no time. 다디 다 간다 지 최 냠는 근데 시험입니다. 최 냠는 지 사디 안지 가수라다 뒤주를 써야지다. 망부지기 formal practice 지하게 뒤주를 지 써야지. 그래서你们几个拿了呀？当我肯定是明年我做让人广大的肯定是呢。다 뒤지 뒤주 써야지. 냠는 차도 지겨하래. 다데 다 야부시라래. 다디 디지 배터리 차지 차수 간다지 수지 니마 지금 나로래야 쉽지기 다 exhaustic som으로 내가 먹고 싶지제 exhaustic 갈래 쉽지가 다나 신기 지sem데 주부를 차디에 인상 난지 formal practice 제제 다 간다 아주 sem데 마지 쉬어야지 튜어야지 adrich chalia formal practice chadi awsha yus something those tuzur this susu gela tuzur ji susu sem ta khajur ji susu relax chak lusim niga relax chak tuzur tandi ta kechum stare something.
Of course, one of the ways that we practice the Dharma is in the context of formal practice. And formal practice is something that we need to make time for. We might set aside time in the morning or in the evening. But some formal practice, I think, is very good to do because it's similar to a time of day where we take to recharge our batteries. Throughout the day, we become very exhausted. We have many things to do. Our minds become quite disturbed sometimes due to all of this. And therefore, it's very helpful to set aside some time where we're only concentrating on relaxing our body and mind. This helps to pacify our mind and to tame our mind. And I think that for this reason, formal practice is very important.
다이미네야 최저 냠는 자사디 relax 차다. 다가는 신기지 술을 다 relax 차다. 다는 신파 this 마지 시와를 차 대점 많이 버체 대점도 많이 봐. 다 될에 လှ버지 가서 준비돼 돼야지. 야 아주 삼동가데 쉽게 좀 차려야 돼.
맞아.
다티 컨디션은 뭐 다티 조딩 아주기 emotionalism 다 dealing 샤스물 봐 아주 심 다 녀모다 바지 녀모대야 선한다도 아나 녀모당 지 가르다 다 dealing 샤라나 가사래
라서?
다 대상 오늘신데 벽에도 인지시라 세처만 됐어야는 아니야 이제 당 다이네 개바스케입니다 다 드네주 다디 개좀 쉽차려 딜링자디 요몬 다 이미 이모셔널 사디 안 삼성 아들 심데 삼성 아 도박하려 연데 어르서나 당 아주 녀모사디 파 razum juroina and then as emotional viba tab debarch lagu ardi yimbine da nyomo sadi pena mari badchi bina emotional sorchi chorwan bchi mimche ko mari sadi yang quran ji kashwe asu emotional thon mari baimi 다 삼성의 용어를 때 예매는 다디 디나는 include 제도에 나면 하고도 다 간다야 다 녀모를 야봐 녀모 대야서란 장도 하나 녀모의 냠도 다 가서 내가 제서 말다 디 딜 양안 주지 nendenji samdongwa de gechim chik chade yusra.
Awesome. However, our practice shouldn't be done just for the sake of relaxing. Relaxing is, of course, one component, pacifying the mind and so forth, but we need to accomplish an aim that is superior to that. And I think that one of the aims that we also need to accomplish in this way is working with our emotions, learning to deal with our emotions, or applying an antidote to our mental afflictions. So it's interesting when we look at the terminology here. In Tibetan you have the term nyunmong, in Sanskrit you have the term klesha. Sometimes when we speak very loosely, we say the word emotions in English, but it might be helpful to note that that doesn't quite map on 100% to the concept we're talking about here when we say klesha, something that disturbs the mind. Because ignorance, for example, or non-awareness is considered a klesha, but we wouldn't normally speak of that as an emotion, maybe sometimes, but probably not most of the time. So it's good to just bear that in mind as we proceed through our conversations. In any case, I think that our Dharma practice must definitely serve as an antidote to the mental afflictions, and therefore working with and learning to deal with our emotions becomes an important purpose of our practice.
Spiritual practice, Dharma practice, that commercial purpose, sometimes that's weekend of the spiritual resort and the change. Energy, meditation chair, relax, yoga chair, relax chair, and the spiritual massage sometimes this 기본으로 루부스에 대원으로 지금 상당으로
라서
다이면 오늘 전에 지 최냠는 지 가서 다지 오늘 제일 대자만 진짜 봐 디지 디스에 대버지당 디 가서지 기본으로 지 여행해 봐야 많았어
라서
다디 intensive exercise somewhere 다지 정달 intensive exercise exercise 다디 참참 미망고질이야디 기부 용어 말다 대보시라 용어 말다 not easy 잘했잖아 최저도안에 아주기 배나 곰시 닝버스 말베 다지 박사 닝버드 좀 요와 당시 박사 싸버지 곰시 싸버지 아주 녀몽 발이야 곰반닝버드 좀 가르숑 당시 안 곰시 싸버지 잠바드 니지나 가리나 다 간다지 셈리야 곰바 싸버지 곰지 싸버지 아 김배주 최고 예비인사 다디 not easy 알 하버도 지 최저하나 가셔서나 내가 가서 personal mentality is something that 미시가 거라 정신 거란 교원 동그래서 기저 봐 다디 마이는 this kala khabar shiba 다디 사지 지리 돈 this 검nhập 냠내체 딘데 돈 교원 정도 사지 여러다 다디 대외경 kala 가고 싶지 버지 지다 시가 사데 단 딩에 시가라도 버지 교원 동안 매버지 당 아주 남기 당한 딩에 시가래 제가 다 덮시 미도 사를 주고 봐. 다 이민의 최초 나는 시에비민 다디 딩의 시가를 사주하면 다가나 고 견도나 안디 교화동 과지 당 안디 소주 잡고 하루 처에 인자 다디 레나 버서 말아.
맞아.
안디 인주스안에 디 intensive exercise somewhat 다지 시다 그지 깔래 자고야지 디진서 섬다.
Sometimes these days, spirituality is used for commercial purposes. Sometimes we have presentations such as the chance to go to a spiritual resort for a weekend. We might do some meditation, feel very nice, do some yoga, maybe get a little massage.
Spiritual.
Yes, a spiritual massage. And we use this to replenish ourselves and refresh ourselves, and it sounds very nice, but actually, there's no guarantee that true Dharma practice will necessarily feel refreshing. It actually involves some intensive exercise for our mind. In fact, sometimes Dharma practice can be rather unpleasant, uncomfortable, and not easy. The reason why this is the case is because Dharma practice involves changing our old habits and letting them go and replacing them with new habits. So in terms of old habits, we have to learn how to let go of our destructive emotions or mental afflictions, and then instill in us new habits of loving kindness, compassion, and so on, and apply effort in that. And that isn't easy. In particular, Dharma practice actually has something to do with transforming our own personal character or our own personality, our personal nature. And that can be difficult. Of course, we have the recent observations from modern science that talk about how meditation can change our brain and so forth, but I think what the Dharma is really talking about is more difficult than that. It goes to changing our character. Sometimes we might have the defense, well, I'm not going to change this because this is who I am. That's my character. So I'm not going to change that. But Dharma practice says, no, that's not tenable. That's not a tenable defense, as it were. Because if your character involves flaws that are harmful, then the Dharma says that is what needs to be transformed. That's what you need to put effort into letting go. And that's a difficult process. It's not easy, it can be intense.
드레인주스안에 다가르 덴덴지 시가서면 미전신 미 섬리야 교침비미나 다 미시가서면 다 딜레 personality 딜레 교환하지 오마 미지 콘트사브르지미나 제리아 지미 창심제로 차 연주산에 이거 personality 거는 교환하지 그지 용데도와
잠샘
미 창심제 당부 콘트사보 아니 차도 첨보를 제비미 아예 첨보 다 제마야 클릭클릭 거 가셔야지 정다를 체연주산에야 미디 오마들이 미신다를 차지
라서
다 간다지 미 창심제 미지 차도 준주 아니지 미야 함불 somebody 킹종제 드리비치 쳐도와 디차 연주산에 고랑기 미들렌 교환주야를 고랑 미즈들렌 교환주도와
라서
제자 남중아 저기 마부지 까마 셰리가래 까마스두산 레서 된 교도와 매버지 다음에는 미딘 교치비미나 에 고라 디전시 레된 교환주야지 간다르 미디기 교치비나 미디 미즈데 교환주야지 제자 디게 가솔 가르쳐서나 깁홉 섬으로부터지 가솔이야 제와당 가솔 제와예비지당 가솔은 딜럼이야비지 벌써 땡겨서 섬정도스 간다르 수수디 수수 내법 텔레 내법 시행지량 교환주야지
라서
예 다다미 참 미망버지기 수술이야 this magawaru ji yede bimina ani ande ji 제마야 미망고지 술 가봐 차요 차요 다들 유산 디준데 다들 조디 지 룰린 조와 땅부디 팽게어 만다
Lasa?
지 리슐 제 무드라 제 다음에 제네 다디 다 칼라 카브와
Lasa?
다디 스피치 지 만트라 네 다나 신기 가수지 compassion 지 카나마 렌자동 망부 지 셰빈 디핑거만 다 간다 조디 엔지 세미양 교와 당체 아니 세미양 교와 당체 니 수수의 的 人性 가리에 들이야 교와抓去 근데 매수시 과지
So I think the Dharma is definitely about transforming our personality in some sense, because if we're someone who has a strong character that involves anger or lots of jealousy, then that's something that needs to be transformed by the Dharma. And later on we can become actually someone who doesn't have much anger, who is not very jealous, who is humble, and so forth. So by changing ourselves as a person, then our life is transformed as well. In Buddhism, we talk about karma a lot, and sometimes we interpret that to mean that everything is fixed in place. We can't change anything because it's all been arranged by karma. But that's not the case. We can change our mind, we can transform our mind, transform our personality through the Dharma, and by transforming our mind and personality through the Dharma, we can change our life. So this can actually give us hope and show us that there is actually a future ahead of us full of potential, full of positive potential. For example, we might not be someone who is well-liked at present, but if we transform our habits, then we can be actually someone who is liked and regarded well by others. But to get to this level or state of transformation, it's not going to benefit if we just try to change our body alone or our physical demeanor. If we just were to rely on engaging in rituals and doing mudras from a physical perspective, it would be difficult to bring a true transformation about. In the same way, it's not beneficial to just change our speech to saying mantras or uttering the word compassion over and over again and so forth. What we really need to work on is our mind. That's the main thing. Through changing our mind, we change our personality. Through changing our personality, we change our life. And that is what we should put effort toward.
다디 셈김 체아디 가르쳐다지 냠네 체아디 가르쳐에 다디 다기 뇨모사데 지 가르쳐에 지 텔레야 지 미튠비 쳐다 미튠비 쳐 섬르다지 가르쳐라고다 튠초기 다 유엔덴지 야게 동아다 미튠비 쳐기 간다 다 방스선한 장도 간다 개겐디 줄이야 아주 마 가르쳐에 개겐세야 다디 개좀 차대요 다들이야 지 뇨모사디 아주 지 미디미 쳐기다 개겐 섬르베 다들이식 원디가 아래 지당기 세당 섬르베 다지 다 가르쳐라고 베나지 세당 사르보다 되샤 사르 디디 지 텔레비네 간다 직세나 지 positive side negative side 니가 유에서는 자도 야나 could be changed somewhere 다지 람도 케스 당아주 추저게 시에는 람게르지래 야나 직디 수술이야 탑케어 충분히미나 데고 가수에 양지 가수에 좋아서 기라야 되봐 다들 지금 용디야 다 강들이야 이내야 다다
So we could talk about the disturbing emotions or mental afflictions as adverse factors in our experience, something we need to transform or dispel. And then we could talk about positive qualities like loving kindness and compassion as harmonious factors that we need to promote and develop. But some of the emotions, such as anger, are not as one-sided. They can be spoken of sometimes to have positive aspects, negative aspects, maybe sometimes aspects that are both positive and negative, or aspects of anger that could be changed, that could be brought to the path and transformed into an assistant or support. So sometimes if we're able to skillfully relate to our emotions, we can bring them to the path and use them as supports.
Overwhelmed, control cheto. Control share. Cheto may be in the Nijig one, Sigdil, Tros, Kea, than the casual Lamdo Kazad, Kalahasharo.
Lesson.
That the Tros, Lamdo Kazadi, the Sosulia, that Kalahan Sanguichi casual control Chigave Tone, this Ajimi Nusan, you said that Telebnia casual Jimbeshid, as we get Chine, and nobody Yaget Tonga, Tone, Yontuachi Mato, Tambon de Yontuachi. This covering is
Lasso. However, when we speak about taking the kleshas as the path or bringing them to the path, we should know that we're talking about a different situation than being controlled by our kleshas, which is usually the way that we relate to them. Usually it's the kleshas controlling us and not us controlling the kleshas. If we're completely overwhelmed by and governed by our mental afflictions, then it's going to be very difficult for us to bring them to the path or take them as the path. So in order for us to be able to do that, we need to have some control over our kleshas, our disturbing mental events, and that is something that comes about through gradual process. It's very difficult to gain this ability from the very beginning.
That Tanayam, Pena Condor Gabria, that Condor Sane and Jiwa, Masane and Jiwa, that indeed of Jiggy, Jesus choice Jig, that the new choice share, new Togo.
Lasso?
Sane and Jiwa, Masan and Jiwa. Madobe and to Condor Lion Gabria, Ramameva, Masakamen, Jig, Nedan of Chumbi, and Shirara, the new Togo, Marchesa, Tanayan, Tambodi, under the Jig, Togo.
Lasso? So ultimately, we have to be able to get to a place where we have the ability to relate to our anger in a way that we're not just at the whim of our own anger. So if we come to the point where we can choose between getting angry or not getting angry, then that means we've gained some ability. But if we fall into anger in a helpless way, where we don't have any choice or control whatsoever, then we still have not gained any power of our own or ability in relation to our emotions.
Kanda Jinji Shuadi, Kanda Numon Yam Dansadi, Azulia, Kashre. The Cho Nin is someone. Atangazudaji, Chadichi, the Cho Nini, or some Tonga Shagaris. Numon Yamadena.
Lasso?
That Angudi Haresana. The Chida Nangi, some Rustambi, that Delia, that Digi Chida Nansadi, young Azunam Gun, she Mubotan Nangsem, the Digi Kitchen Mane. I made that dear so delia, Ken of Nuber needs Hango. Chigde, and Azunam Gun Kajure, Chilone, Kada, she 네, 가지고야지. formal practice 망보를 제 다나시 지 참바의 지 meditation 제 다나시 지 가지고 퇴삼을 제제 내지 토안에 당 가지고 요모리야 님보 카데작 뉴버드디 가지고 지 가지고 뉴 collect somewhere 다지 디르비치가 아래 다디지래 다드네 니버디 가르쳐 오르스나 니버디다 뇨모바랴 ngo시야서 뇨모바사데 근데지 뭐 ngo시야지다 나나 신기 ngo시네 다디지 가르쳐 뇨모바당 지 수수 시스템이야 distance somewhere 지 장타를 샤도야지 다디 계속 차대요 알았어
라섬
계시 아주 칠로안에 다지 장바든 이제서 봐 망보지 곰베 다지 추인도 제베미냐 낭심리야 셈다 뇨모들이야 지 가서 distance 좀 시라베체 and 다는지 야나지 셈데 뇨모발지 kind of almost like inseparable 차 드립차위미나 and 다는지 단 남중 아주 디스거다 revolution 좀 뇨모리아지 가서에 다 쭉로베 삼바선한 장도 셴발로베 삼바선한 장도 다 딘지지 매비미나 다 드네 치 넘버리아 아주지 망보 셰비미나 된담 코란리아 뇨모리아 뇨모 조트야지다 뇨모 뇌트야다 가가시다래서
라섬 You could say that there are two stages of relating to the kleshas or working with the kleshas. And whenever I say kleshas, for those of you who aren't familiar, we could say that means mental afflictions or disturbing emotions, destructive emotions, negative mental patterns, and so forth, is all klesha. So when we relate to the kleshas or try to transform the kleshas, there are two basic stages. We could call one an outer stage and one an inner stage. The outer stage involves the formal aspect, where we engage in meditation, we engage in the forms and following the instructions of meditation, we engage in study as well as reflection and contemplation about the meaning of what we have been taught. And through this, we collect the methods or tools that serve as antidotes, or that will serve as antidotes to the mental afflictions. At the second stage, that's the more internal level, where we actually recognize the mental afflictions that are present in our own mind stream. Having recognized them, we can then start to set some distance between our own mind on the one hand and the mental affliction on the other hand. And it's very important to have this distance be present between our mind and the mental afflictions as a result of our practice. If we practice and practice, but still end up in a place where there's no separation between our mind and the mental afflictions at all, no distance between these two things at all, then our practice really isn't penetrating through to the key point. So to help this along, to help there to eventually, through our practice, arise a distance between our mind and the mental afflictions, we need what is called revulsion. We need some attitude of disgust or revulsion toward our mental afflictions and a desire to part from them. If we don't have that revulsion, then it's going to be difficult for us to get past the mere outer stage of just going through the forms of meditation. It will be difficult for us to arrive at the ultimate purpose of meditation in terms of parting from our mental afflictions.
mental emotion, the disturbing emotion laurda kanda telgi bina the missususulia chikajure nubasishon samarbe si nyomo ya di cheshi sususumanda samto
Lasa.
an dana shingi jidang ya nyomo dang azu namyu zo zawe nyomo de shashilan timusum shigare 다 데데 뭐 야와치는 뭐 오시라요 알바
Lasa.
아니 데자시난 좀 숨디 다 가르수에 domsirum dom 다 자외녀 모르 선한다도 다디 dom르디 야고시샤 다 디스 지보 삼담비 미네야 나지 셰란디 주세 지금 모트레레 라르시 안 되자사디 디기 다지 링예기 야와치하고 좀 디스칼라 하부스도
Lasa.
다드네 디모사데 얘는 디모사다 가르미 다드 베제 나한테 망고 셰셔 봐
Lasa.
라메다 망고 송거데 이네 디평거만 다 주소술이야 지금 모트레버 지당 냠스 영어를 두스고 아래 다디 영화 가고 싶도
라사?
디모사데 가르이 얘는 고쳐 말해 드네 대리 냠버데 유 파스 주세 안 드네 주사네 디 강에 다 수수 재산 되서 다디 뇨모 디즈기 가수에 다 가는 라고 다디 뉴버 치중 사람 장도 야나 다지 띵 सबमसब केबार चपसि onde mentosom dus changus
Lasa.
an rin ju sane ta nam ju zo de susole ngene ya nyomo kar shu sher shebe ne ya ta dine gozamne nyambote ya ke sheo ta dile nyabas ke amna ta
Lasa.
간 다리양 nga zoegi je kabli haji dealing with mental emotion samre da je disturbing emotion de chewe kabli ya 당부 거란 successful 차다 걸 하고 싶어요 지 얘가 더야 난지
Lasa.
다디 인지미지 아줄이야 가수에 무투이네 지 가수에 냠내 치약 다 저기 지 뉴버 작보스는 장도 매버 작보스는 장도 진짜 인도 없이 거야 돼 encouragement 거야 돼 지아 저게 평가를 직터 평가 직총의 미나 아니 양결 가수에 지 배는 직 평가 샤워는 단도주 제가 try you need to try 10 times
Lasa.
10 times you lose 100 times somewhere about that did today 가수에 진짜 거야 쉽지 개좀 잘하는 도스
Lasa.
진짜 매비 미망고 치 당분에 다 직찬 오즈다 니숨 다 가수에 not successful 되네 아니 바지 다 참샤샤
Lasa.
아 레인비스 진짜 매미치 그 뒤에야 에너지 소소기 예 녀모베 원래 좀고 무구루 삼바르지 고구르네 좀다 안 사라인데 좀 들으지 무구루 삼바르지 삼바지고 개좀있어
Bowing down.
야 lying down 다 이랑 아주 다 다시라 주주스마다 오케이
People have different emotional makeups. So that means that what's a strong mental affliction for some person isn't necessarily going to be the strongest mental affliction for a different person. Basically, the Buddhist teachings talk about 3 poisons of the mind, pointing to the 3 root mental afflictions of desire, aggression, and bewilderment, which of course can be translated in various ways. And these 3 in turn have many subcategories in the teachings, but these 3 are kind of like the central network for all of the other disturbing emotions or mental afflictions to develop. If we look at aggression or anger in particular, we can see that it is perhaps the easiest mental affliction to recognize and also the easiest to identify as problematic. But if we look at desire, it might be a little bit difficult to recognize, more difficult to recognize, and particularly sometimes more difficult to identify as problematic in comparison with anger. And then with regard to bewilderment or ignorance, that is a mental affliction that is taught a lot about in the texts and by the great masters, but just teachings from texts and masters aren't enough. We need to recognize its presence in our own mind stream, in our own experience, and bring that into our practice. But that in turn is very difficult. It can run very deep in our mind stream. And so there's no uniformity with regard to which kleshas are the strongest in which individuals. In any case, when we set about to transform our negative emotions, it's very difficult to gain success, as it were, or to gain victory from the very beginning. And therefore, what's really important is for us to have a strong sense of resolve, have a strength of heart, and have a sense of encouragement and fortitude when we set about to work with our mind and work with our emotions, because what will inevitably happen is that we're going to experience defeat. We're going to try to relinquish our negative emotions or try to transform our mind, and we're going to fail. So we should have the attitude that if we fail 10 times, that just means we're going to try 100 more times. If we didn't give rise to that firm encouragement of ourselves in the beginning, then it might be challenging, because maybe we could take one defeat or one instance of failure, but then after 2 or 3 instances of failure, we'd be pretty much ready to give up. So having this strong resolve in the beginning and an attitude that we're not just going to completely bow down to our negative emotions is very important.
Nyomo sar this chikarawe shu the chichung do somebimina rangi ngangi chi karashore tuncho de yende samare sambe de yage yonda le la rush paji yongdo le la wan ruch
Laso
paji yongdo sonda 다들 당게 쉬우나 시 잠니지 사데 다나시래 ngazu samolul ya chambade niji saben senen jando yana chambade niji ge de kamjodi ngazu samolul ya 안 기류네 바지 여대 버지
Laso
장기 땡게스 여대 버지 드리 차리 알아 안디자 세리베지 가수에 sympathy empathy 사드지 하드웨어 지 사도와 텔레베나 지가르 지
Laso
다 간다 다 임비네 다디지 situation somewhere 소소게 살롱 좀베게다 쿠리오다 내단에 댄세 고 가수에 교환주의지 안 다는 신기 안 아주 그뒤네 지가수에 이제 지 샴페인 자왈이야 지 involved 시두산에 다지 아주 되지 가르 지 시나르지 야나 risk 시나르지 딘데르지 제제 안다 야나 진디 나라 제바 미두 삼르지 this is not my business somewhere 다 딘데르지 나라 주도 미두 삼르지 딘데지 삼르 당체 안 레라버지 딱한들 on off somewhere 다 소소 셈 딘데지 예비 임네 디디 off 지야요 버지 교환줘야 버지 딘데 차리요래 그래서 디 균제되네 아주기 잠니지 미버디 사변 여버디 간데스 야게 당고요 간데스 제제 님 다디 도슈로디 님도 학생분 미버 공토로 동고요 다디 아주기 가수 삼도하데 계심 차려요
Laso So when the force of our mental afflictions does begin to lessen, then it becomes easier and easier for the positive qualities of our mind to flourish. So when we talk about loving kindness and compassion, these are qualities that all of us have in our minds already present from the time of our birth. We all have these qualities innately. Science these days tells us that our brains are hardwired for positive emotions such as sympathy, empathy, and so forth. But we get into different situations, such as the conditions in which we were raised, the environment in which we were raised, and things change. And another thing that can serve as an obstacle to the development of our loving kindness and compassion is sometimes we're afraid of trying to help others. We might initially have a wish to try and help others, but then hesitate because we think there's too much risk if we actually try to engage in helping others. Or we say to ourselves, this is none of my business, so therefore I'm just going to disengage. So sometimes it's as if there were an on-off switch to the loving kindness and compassion in our heart, and we choose to leave it on the off setting. Therefore, contemplating to ourselves about how we can further empower the loving kindness and compassion that is already present within ourselves, further energize the pure intention that we possess, is very important.
다 드네. 다들 시라 두주시라 맵자. 아들이 주사네. 디 미신다가 동해를 understanding 지하당 디지 가수에 텔레야 다가수에 샤차웨기 삼바자마 힘바. 정이 안에 간다 동해에 심지 사람장도 아나 다 간다 심지 버리부디 지 차셰 교르제. 나 드리지 동안에 간다 지 자와 스메르지 니네 페아로도 지지 저 고가래 되지 요머체 다 대인 주산다 대야 안 된제베기 니지 대야 되네 지 가수에 지 디도 소화에 버서머베 심지 탐제리야 안 된제비다 동해쟁 심지 탐제리야 안 되지 가수에 공부하디 다 개좀 쉽차리 얼마 라서 인비스탄 디규제 되네 다 데리베신 어디 야겐 로가데 수수sem기 이버도 디베신 야겐 로고도 신세 다들네 다 두주시라면인데 온드 롱지 더러치스데 송도 라서 온드 롱디 도잉 라서
It seems that we're running out of time for our session together. So the main point that I wanted to make about compassion is that compassion is a little bit more than just sympathy or even just empathy. It's something that entails more dedication and a heart that entails more involvement in action. So compassion isn't just the mind or heart that understands or feels for the suffering of others or has warm sentiments toward others. Rather, compassion is the mind that realizes that the sufferings of others are actually a part of oneself. And within that attitude, the heart that bears unbearable love for sentient beings. So, therefore, to meditate on compassion is to further cultivate and nurture this awareness that one's happiness and suffering is the happiness and suffering of all sentient beings. The happiness and suffering of all sentient beings is the happiness and suffering of oneself. And when we meditate in this way, our compassion will increase, and it will increase step by step in gradual stages. So that is what I'd like to say about compassion for this morning. And additionally, I've been requested to give a lung, or a scriptural transmission, for the text that I composed on the preliminary practices, brief recitations for the 4 preliminary practices. So I will recite this scriptural transmission now.
San Francisco, ya dadri de kashwe ti niba de yuan chung de kawsha chung sing yang changman tu de shira gaw chung an dari amjiglia ti sumba yang be kawlia an dawa ni gjilia kashwe ji tuzu dadri patsun draki kogabru tu shumbre 다디 고급디 다 팅당부를 차리야래. 지 계급 나눠려야 이제 두수 정부직 나눠려야 봐서라 고급 정부 팅당부를 차리야래. 다디 딜레라버시요. 다디 고급 타데 아버지 말해. 강주디 싱만 마체 지전에 신도하고 말해. 다디 가서 하고 버린다. 레라고 요 말해. And in Hindustan, that is a lema that to do Jimbuji in Aralia. And a go ne, the Digita to do Kashwada, Kokab Shumbadi, the Kashre, Kavasha Johnsons, and they do some Mambali in Binia, and Kans the Shed, near to do Mansi, down to set some sort of that is 자와당 안다는 신기도 이제를 전부 다 해요.
Lasso? I'm so happy to be visiting San Francisco for the second time and very happy to see you all. And this is my third visit to the United States, but the first time, really, that I have had the opportunity to have such an extended visit. So this time I have the chance to be here for 2 months and visit various places. I'm very happy to have this opportunity, and it hasn't been an easy one to receive. I don't know if you're aware of how difficult such an opportunity is to receive, but it hasn't been easy. Something I've waited for quite a while, and therefore I'm very happy that it has come to pass, that I'm able to visit the United States for an extended period of time. And my hope and prayer and aspiration in the future is that I will be able to come back again and again for the benefit of yourselves in a similar way.
di nalo le t-shirt ngarang ge dana si chengye da de ga sana di jeje yong ga gyumzen ru zo ji di ane kada ji chi ge ge nalo ya yue be da kanda ko ka shwe da loma sana zhe ge da ngar da ngarang loma ru ji na ru she min do ngarang lama ina she min do loma yue na ja she min do de yin du sana da 안달 치기가 나로려야지 가트레 다 정보만 보지 도시하래 레이주산에 안디지 대주다 투제 치아기 다 고급디 마종이 말에 레이주산다 야갈래야 신시다 야가라와 루베나로려야 바지 친세 아니 비게지 로드 총이미나 아니 지 치기가 가려야 예배 정보소리야 투야기 고급 망아 용거를 삼버지 나사 니지 자와를 신부 기업체다 용물에 다 이미네 다디 야갈 레벨 젤리네 한테 레라우지 중요하면 다디 다디 lots of challenges 말바다지 hardships 말바다지 가는 방법이 유지도 충분해 다 간다야 안 다대 차림이네 다 데지 구양을 조여야 지당 아니 장왕 this cher roye dus number dus yonde ye in dustane and lojenge ngita jawasanan rando myanam sanan rando that the drubyak tanya dus that drubyalia and the kandar ichi cher roye dus cha ye in dustane the ngarang kawsha chung solution
It's been more than 15 years now since I escaped Tibet and left for India. And when I did that, I left a note on my table in Tibet, and I wrote the reason for my leaving Tibet in that letter, but I also remember what I wrote so that I can tell you. The main reason why I left Tibet was because I wasn't receiving the opportunity to meet with the many friends I have in foreign countries. Now, you could say that I couldn't meet with the many disciples that I have in foreign countries, but I don't feel so certain that I have many disciples.
No, it's okay.
Okay. So I don't know whether to call them disciples or friends. But in any case, I wasn't getting the opportunity to meet them. And my thought at that time was, if I could go to the noble land of India, which is a free country, then I would have many more opportunities to see my friends throughout the world. But after I arrived in India, it didn't work out in exactly the way I had hoped. There were lots of challenges and a lot of hardships. It wasn't easy to just automatically go and travel throughout the world and meet all my friends throughout the world. So that continued along that way for some time, but now it looks like things are opening up a little bit. It seems that there might be some more freedoms opening up. And I really feel that maybe now I'm getting closer to fulfilling my hopes and aspirations that I had made 15 years ago. So I have great trust in this.
아니 딱 간다. 내 메시지 가서 디스 가서 간다데 로 듀니 레벨 가려 루르다 까마바레스 우지루체
라서?
저리게요.
라서?
아니 다드네 지 드네 로주시 걸이야 간다 조주시 다 간다 이제 제제 총벌에 제산도 미진나로야 지 요아 다 챌린지 방법을 총벌에 요아 먹을 총벌에 제산 다디 요아 총벌에 얘기 가수라다지 out of my control somewhere that the 요아 동도 유엔에 요아 신데비스 게 말해 나가는 도시체 다 예민해야지 요아 신부 되게 나 미망고 질이야 가수라다지 가수의 펜터 용배다 저거를 체 도시ум에 레인비스나 베나 디린도 차셔빈데 그냥 좀 미망고 질이야 영어체 영어서 뭐 투야당 이 가수를 이면에 대해서 가수의지 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 가보용하다 다나 신기 셈리아 디기요하로 기 디기요하게 가수다 튕기는 중세지 조토스 삼바를 두스탱도 내인주산 다디 통윤주산다 오망아주지 가수에 땡에 미진나로리 요망고 심비티 다 저것도 삼사로지 다 가수의지 even though out of my control, but they serve good purpose. Some other tondos, other Hindustan, Kanda, Kan Sound, the Yom, the Kavisha, Chu Shuai, I'm always I share it.
When I was 7 years old, I was recognized as the Karmapa, but I had no plans for this to happen. I had no preparations for this. When I was 14, I left Tibet and came to India and have gone through many challenges that entailed. So I've gone through lots of big changes in my life, and many of them have been out of my control. But nevertheless, I think that these changes can serve a good purpose. For example, I've had the opportunity to be together with you here today, and I really feel that this opportunity for us to be together today may provide you with some small condition to further increase your own joy, happiness, and well-being. And therefore, even though there have been great changes and challenges in my life, they are not for no purpose. They can be put to a good purpose and become useful. So again, I'm so happy to see you all, and thank you very much.
Thank you.